you've helped create some of the most incredible characters, stories, and open worlds in video game history. But when you grew up in the late 70s and 80s, open world video games wasn't a thing. So you've credited literature and film as early inspiration. So let's talk about film first, if we can.
Sure.
What to you are some of the candidates for the greatest films of all time? Maybe films that were highly influential on you. I mean, Godfather.
Well, I think for me, probably Godfather 2 more than Godfather 1, but I love both of them. But I love the divided story in Godfather 2. And as a migrant, I used to live in Soho. I love the bits in Little Italy, and I love the sections in Sicily. So I think, and the bit at Ellis Island is just one of the best shots in all of cinema. When you see little Vito turning up in Ellis Island and you get that shot, it's amazing. It gives you a really good cinematic sense of what it must have been like to arrive in America.
How much of the greatness of Godfather do you think is the writing? How much is the cinematography? And how much is the acting? You got De Niro, you got young Pacino.
Well, Coppola started as a screenwriter, so I think he wrote, at least co-wrote, the script. So it's almost like the writing and directing almost become the same thing. Well, it's one of those films, both of them are those films which I was thinking about, this idea of a perfect film where everything's good, where the acting's seminal, where the writing's seminal, where the music is seminal, where the shots are so memorable, where the scenes are, define what you think about things. It's impossible to think about the mafia and not think about The Godfather.
What about the pacing? It is a bit slow. You have movies like 2001: Space Odyssey, slow.
Yes.
It used to be, back in my day, it used to be slower.
Life got faster. Life just got, as we moved from the 70s into the 80s, into the 90s, people had seen so many films, they just started to edit films faster. And people understood cinematic storytelling so much that you could do things much quicker. You could show a look and just that meant you realize that person was going to betray the other person. They just edited films much quicker. But I quite like the slowness. I think these days with modern high quality television, you don't have to necessarily watch these films in one sitting, particularly when you're rewatching them. So it doesn't bother me that they're long and slow.
Speaking of faster, life getting faster, I'm sure another influential movie was Goodfellas, Scorsese. That's faster, right?
Yes.
A mixture of crime and humor.
And almost like an open world game in some ways, in that it's this slice of life. You see, I think that probably changed cinema at the sort of tail end of the 80s, early 90s, more than any other film. And it's so iconic. In some ways, I prefer Casino, but the invention is really in Goodfellas. I love the end of Casino. The use of voiceover, the way you saw them being criminals and being normal people. It changed everything. I mean, The Sopranos obviously is completely inspired by Goodfellas.
Yeah, Casino has, first of all, the character of Sharon Stone. I mean, everything.
The look, the clothes,
yeah,
the music.
I would say one of the most memorable moments in film for me is the meeting in the desert. I mean, it's just the drama building up to that.
Dig another hole.
Yeah. The environment, the city, speaking of open world and creating a character from the city.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the great Vegas films.
I think the great Vegas film. The bits that I love at the end when everything's wrapping up. And on the one hand, you see the Robert De Niro character. He's still good at making money, so they let him return to normal life. But then you get that brilliant scene when all of the mob bosses from back home, they're discussing all these people who may or may not be able to implicate them. And then there's that incredibly cold line where one of them, they're thinking about the old, I think it's the casino manager, and one of them just goes, the way I see it, why take a chance? And then the next thing he's just shot. Right? The brutality of it all is just brilliant.
I don't know. I probably have to disagree with you on Vegas. There's at least some competitors. You got with Nicolas Cage leaving Las Vegas. I mean, falling in love with a prostitute. You're also you've written some of the great crime stories ever.
Thank you.
And in some sense, there's love stories in there. And you've talked about being a bit of a romantic yourself. Appreciating the depth of love stories in literature, at the very least. And there is a dark kind of love story between an alcoholic and a prostitute. He got an Oscar for that.
I think he did for that, didn't he?
Plus, there's the caricature of the drug world of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. That's an interesting one.
I love the book so much. I was obsessed by it when I was about 17, 18.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed the film, but I preferred the book.
Has a Hunter S. Thompson type of character ever made it into any of your stories?
No, but one of the things we're working on now, there's sort of an English version of Hunter S. Thompson if he was also a market gardener. I love that persona. But he's it's hard. If you make him American, it's hard for it not just to be Hunter S. Thompson.
Is this an American caper?
No, it's in this animated show we're developing in this sort of comedy world we're working on called Absurverse, and it's in one of the stories in that.
What is Absurverse?
Absurverse is a comedy universe we're developing that will be an open world video game and then some loosely adjacent stories that we're going to make as animated TV shows or possibly animated movies. We're still thinking that all through. And we're building the game up in San Rafael at the moment. And it's early days, but it's looking very exciting. And it's trying to be like trying to make a game that feels a little bit like a living sitcom.
Is there some drama and tragedy at the edges, or is it pure comedy?
I hope it's got comedy, cynicism, heart, drama, and some amusing life lessons. Otherwise, you can't just have jokes for 40 hours. It won't work.
Okay, so comedy needs some darkness.
Well, I think it needs story. One of my favorite comedies of this century is The Office because it was incredibly funny, but also because it had narrative and heart underneath the cynicism. I think with narrative, you get a drive alongside jokes.
And there's going to be an open world video game in that world.
Yes.
When?
2, 3, 4 years, still thinking that through.
So what's the process of getting from the idea to the end of a video game? Why does it take so long to get it right?
That's an interesting question. I think the scale at which they're built, you could argue it the other way. Why is it so quick? I mean, you really are building in one go a world, a city, and 40 hours of entertainment cut through it. You know, these things are massive 4-dimensional mosaics that are intensely complicated and have to work in lots of different ways. And I think that's us being kind of aggressive on the timeline.
We're taking a tangent upon a tangent upon a tangent, but I have to return to some films.
Yes.
Let me just list a few of my favorites. So first of all, you said you love great war books and movies.
Yes.
So we have to throw in Platoon from Oliver Stone and Apocalypse Now, for me at least.
Of course.
There's more fast-moving crime movies like Scarface. I also love True Romance.
Love True Romance. Possibly one of the best scripts ever written.
Written, of course, by Quentin Tarantino. What do you love about True Romance? I think sometimes, depending on the day, depending on the bar and how much alcohol I had, I will say True Romance is the best movie ever made.
Yeah, I mean, True Romance is super fun. Tony Scott was a really good director, so it moves at a really good speed. It's funny, it's completely unbelievable, but you really care about the characters. It's the kind of, this world that obviously doesn't exist, but you feel it does exist. The characters are larger than life. The dialogue is unbelievably, you could just sit and watch them talk all day long. And, it's amusing. You just want to live in that world. I was thinking, what do you like about films? It's the idea to be in a world. You want to, they're not real. They're never real, but you want to be in these fake worlds that people have invented.
And I think you said that what makes a great world is having a large cast of characters. And I think that movie is a good example. I mean, you have Christopher Walken with the sort of legendary super racist discussion. Rant.
Dennis Hopper is just sort of dream dad.
Dream dad. And just that interaction is legendary. You got even Brad Pitt as a pothead on a couch.
Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman. And you have, a real love story. Like a real, genuine, pure love can survive in any context.
And it's just sweet. Their love story is very sweet in that film. It's endearing.
The Elvis as a character. It's kind of like a mini GTA type game. Some of the same beauty, the comedy, the love.
Crossed with Play It Again, Sam. So it feels a bit like that with the Elvis character.
What about greatest war film? What would it be for you?
Greatest war film. If I'm feeling serious, it would be a Russian film called Come and See, which is probably the most intense film ever made. And if I'm feeling slightly less serious, Apocalypse Now. And I would always want to watch the original cut. I don't prefer the re-edits. I like the original first release. I think it's tighter and slicker and works the best.
Yeah, of course, Apocalypse Now is this hallucinatory journey into darkness, I think, madness.
Yeah, but from the first scene onwards, it's just got these amazing set piece after set piece and, again, incredible characters. Brilliant dialogue.
Some of the greatest films about war reveal that war is not what it seems. And there's different ways of doing that. And you've talked about different books. The Thin Red Line is another book and
Yeah.
movie that shows that.
Yeah, and I watched the movie years before I read the book, and I didn't understand the movie. And then I read the book, and I read a lot about the editing of the movie, and I understood why I didn't understand the movie, and that's because the movie makes no sense. It is beautifully shot, and the music is one of the best film scores of all time. But they edited 2 different battle scenes into one battle in a way that they're spread apart by ages in the book to assemble. I think they filmed the book pretty much verbatim. It would have been like a 6-hour movie, then edited this impressionistic thing that's incredibly beautiful, but doesn't necessarily make narrative sense at the end of it. But it's still very beautiful, the film.
And in terms of Westerns, what's the greatest? The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Unforgiven. Those are for me. Maybe even Django Unchained. You've mentioned Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
I think for me, it's 2 films from, I think, pretty much the same year. Butch Cassidy and The Wild Bunch.
I love Robert Redford. Rest in peace.
That film, it's impossible to imagine anybody film without Butch Cassidy.
It's Paul Newman, Robert Redford, and Clint Eastwood for you also. Has that impacted your writing on Red Dead?
I love Unforgiven, but the truth is, with Red Dead, I'd seen a lot of Westerns as a kid. My dad watched lots of Westerns. They were always on TV. You know, I felt I knew quite a bit about Westerns. And then, then I had to start thinking about writing one for work. And I deliberately did not binge on Westerns. I tried to watch no more Westerns and just think about what I liked about them, what I didn't like about them, what would be a take that would work today and would work within the confines of a game. And I think Red Dead 1 was a slightly more traditional Western. And then having done that, tried to take Red Dead 2 in a different direction so that it felt like a worthy successor. Didn't just feel like more of the same.